Thank you to the leadership team and the committee who makes this happen. I know a lot goes into that. And so just thank you for allowing me to take this off of your hands for this month and facilitate this session and bring brilliance literally into the room. So, hey, everybody, I'm Jiquanda Nelson. I am CEO of People Decoders. And so we know people, we do all things people. I have had a long career and history in many different ways around connecting with people. And so Susan actually was a part of that journey. And so when we thought about, and it's so funny because I think the conversation even evolved after we met with the leadership team, right? We had this very buttoned up, like, how to channel your brand in the age of AI, which we'll still touch on that. But I think what we're hearing is that people were really excited about Susan's background and experience and really just wanted to hear more about her and her experience and how she has kind of harnessed her personal brand and how that can translate in corporate spaces and small business owner spaces now that she's a business owner. So anyway, I have to read this bio though. So Susan Oguche is an award-winning, industry-leading communications executive with over 15 years of progressive experience shaping narratives for some of the world's most iconic brands, literally most iconic brands. As a brand storyteller, strategic marketer, and now the founder of Brilliance Communications, a full-service communications consultancy, Susan has consistently demonstrated her ability to design and execute high-impact campaigns that drive business results and enhance brand reputation. Susan has helped some of the most admired companies identify and connect with their missions, navigate moments of crisis, and inspire the public with their unique story. Her roles include most recently serving as the Executive Vice President and Chief Communications Officer for the Cleveland Cavaliers and Rock Entertainment Group, as well as senior level in-house communication positions at Nike, Procter Gamble, Abbott, Home Chef, and Sleep Number. As one of PR Week's 40 Under 40, Susan and the team she has led have been recognized by Sports Business Journal, the NBA, Crain's, PR Week, PR News, and the Stevie International Business Awards. So, let's clap it up, show all the love, all the snaps, all of the things for Susan.
You are too
Hey,
kind. And can we have a
Susan.
clap for those glasses? I love those. Those are the alphabet glasses. I know those alphabet glasses anywhere.
I just told the team if they're going to put me in progressives at the age of 40, they're going to be cute progressives. Okay. We're going to be cute. So
They're
thank you so
very
much for
cute.
that.
So
Thank
cute. Thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. So let's jump right into it, Susan, because
Okay.
clearly your career leading global brands and now leading your own firm. What are some of the moments that shaped who you are as a leader today? Let's start there. How did you what was your journey like, and what were those moments that pushed you to be now the founder of your own business?
Well, one, I love that you're giving me a softball question. What is the meaning of life? Right there. Um, I think as I kind of reflected on this question, I think that the moments that were really pivotal for me as a leader, I would separate that from a professional, but as a leader of people, leader of projects, are what I call moments where humanity broke through. When you saw your boss be a real person, when you're, coaching somebody, an executive or a celebrity, and you see them be very human, and very vulnerable, and you see their insecurities and you try to manage them through that. And I think that has been the biggest thing in terms of my evolution. It's been, when you start your career and you admire so many people and you want to get to the next level and you're just so laser focused on that. And I think where my career has evolved is seeing my role as somebody who gets to guide people and help people, especially in a way that a lot of people feel very vulnerable. Most people are not willing, wanting, waking up every morning to go and stand in front of media or to stand in front of a stage, no matter how high up they are in an organization or how tenured they are. And so I get to see people in a really vulnerable spot. And I think that that's shaped how I think about leadership. That being a leader doesn't mean you have all the answers or that you're perfect. It just means you're willing to try, and that you continue to dust yourself off and try to be better every single day. So there's not necessarily one moment, but I think that journey of going from I want to be the star student and want to, to wow, like when you get into those rooms, you realize these are actual humans with their own vulnerabilities and like how do we meet each other in that place?
Yeah. And I love it too, even along the lines when we talked about like how do we channel our own personal brands in the age of AI and how do we keep those moments of humanity and authenticity, which AI cannot replicate that. And so I love that you absolutely led with that. So I mean, along those same lines, again, recognizing that you've worked in some of the most recognizable organizations in the world, what did those experiences teach you about leadership, influence and using your voice, which you are very vocal, and I love that about you. So what did those experiences teach you about that?
Well, I don't know if there's this book that's like everything I learned about life I learned in kindergarten. It was one of my dad's favorite books, and I still have it on my bookshelf. And I would say everything I learned about corporate life, I learned at Procter and Gamble. I started at P&G as a baby. Literally, the day after I graduated from high school, I was interning through the Inroads program. And I remember walking into a room, not knowing what I was doing, what I was talking about. I came into an agency brief and they asked me what my opinion on it was. And I was like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I literally just crossed the graduation stage this weekend. But what I learned throughout my internships, through my time working there, full time, almost a decade, was that if you're in a room, you belong in a room. And if you are there, make sure that your presence is felt. Have a point of view. Be paying attention. Have something to contribute. And I think that was like a really pivotal moment for me and that kept being repeated. And as my career has changed, and I've been in companies, I remember when I went to Nike, which is one of those companies, it's obviously an incredible company, brilliant people, but their company culture is like you wait for the most senior person in the room to talk, and to have their perspective and their point of view, and you let them kind of have the honor of opening up the floor. But I didn't know that. I came from, P&G background and things like that. And so, they're like, what does everyone think? And I'm like, well, I think. And people came to me and they were like, you just started. Like, it takes people a year to develop their voice. And at first, I kind of felt like, oh, I messed up. I didn't adapt to the culture properly. But what ended up happening was I saw people that I led on my team find their own voices and be able to stand up for themselves and for our discipline in meetings. And I had people come to me and say, I'm so glad you said that. I was thinking it, I wasn't sure. And I think when you operate in that space of just being confident in what you have to contribute, not talking for the sake of it, not just adding, taking up oxygen, but contributing something meaningful and knowing that you have something of value to say. I think it also gives people courage, other people around you who might have been thinking the same thing and didn't want to say it. And so that's been my experience with that is just continuing to step out in faith. It doesn't mean everything I say is perfect, or sometimes I'm like, oh, I probably should have listened better because that wasn't even what they were asking. So we all goof up at times like that. But I think for me, I've just seen that when I walk out of a room and I have something to say, I really have decided that I'm depriving other people of that. And sometimes I'll go back and be like, hey, I didn't speak up in this meeting, but in an email and share some of that. But I've never regretted speaking up and using my voice, whether it's professionally or personally. I've always found it to be really valuable and powerful.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And again, I love that you said, like, you don't have to make it up. Like, make sure it's authentic to who you are. Like you said, don't just speak just to say, like, oh, I'm smart too. But really, again, I think it goes back to how do we channel our own, like, why am I here? Right? Like, I have a purpose here. I'm in this room. What is that purpose? And how do I make sure people know while I'm in the room that I have that? So I love that you called that out. So I personally saw you. So we worked together at Abbott, and I personally saw you as a high visibility leader, being the only Black woman in the space. Right? Happy Black History Month, 365 days, by the way. Um, but got to touch on that. What did it mean for you to build and protect your voice in those rooms where you may have been the only one? Like, what does that meant for you?
Well, there's no blending in when you're the only one, right? You stand out just by nature of who you are, whether you're a person of color, whether you're, a woman, whether you're LGBT, like you just are who you are. And so I've always sort of stepped into that and embraced it. But as it relates to being in different rooms, I think the idea of like imposter syndrome that is, part of sort of the lexicon right now, I think plays into it because when you haven't seen someone be in this space and you enter that space and no one looks like you, there's a sense of like, am I supposed to be here? But the one thing I remind myself, I remind people that I coach, most companies are not in the business of just taking risks. Like they're a business, they're trying to succeed. They saw something in you that they wanted to bring to the table. And I think stepping into that confidence, I know the role at Abbott, I'd never worked in pharmaceuticals. That was my first role out of P&G, and I never thought I would leave Procter and Gamble ever, 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 ever. Like I thought I was going to stay there for the rest of my life and be a proctoid forever, but when I had the opportunity, um, it opened something in my mind in terms of what was possible for me that I never had reflected on. And I think even though I came into a role that at that time, I didn't know the industry, I was probably one of the youngest people in that spot. I used to lie about my age a lot and like make myself older. Now I don't have to lie. Now I'm trying to say I'm 25. But I remember, entering that role and feeling like everyone's 10 years older than me. They've been in pharma forever. But then I remembered how many interviews I had for that role. I remember that our director, she would call me on a Wednesday night and she'd be like, I was just thinking about this thing that you said, and I have more questions. And I had so many conversations, and I went back to that, not to like, rehash the past, but really to say, like, they had every single opportunity to tell me no. Like, they had every single opportunity to dissect how I answered a question, dissect my resume, second guess me as a candidate, and they chose me. And I am going to step into that. I'm going to have as much faith in myself as they had in me, and I'm going to do this role to the best of my ability. And as you're in the process of doing it, we're like, I think it's like with everything, you're like, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then you wake up one morning and you're like, I am doing this. I am doing this job. I'm showing up every day. I'm doing my best. I'm leading this team. I'm leading this project. And let that fuel you. Let that give you a sense of self-confidence and go back to that when you do have those shaky days. Like I've been doing this. I have the background. I passed the test. Now it's just to do what I already know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that so much. And it sounds like you have had this connection to who you are as a person first, right? And so, how did you, or did you ever feel pressure, right, where you had to fit the mold? And were there times that you did? Or how did you not fall into that pressure of fitting the mold of what you're seeing around you?
I would say I probably did feel the pressure. I grew up in a lot of like kind of all white spaces and schools and things like that. And my parents were both academics, so even their friends in higher education, and then by, relation, my friends as well. And at some point you're like, I can't fit in. Like I can't flip my hair the way they flip their hair. I can't talk the way they're talking. Like I have to be myself. And I think it was probably in high school when um, I'm like, people are digging that. Like, people are attracted to me. They want to hear my voice. And I started writing for our paper. I started being involved in theater. I would say the first part of my upbringing, like, I really tried to disappear. I wasn't really trying to blend in. Like, I mean, not in terms of like, assimilate to culture. I was trying to be the wallpaper. Like I was trying to like not be noticed, not show up in a bad way, like just be very quiet and things like that. And I started to come into myself as I realized that like you can be up against the wall as long as you want, but you're not blending in. And so I think that like a lot of us, it's an evolution as we step into ourselves and we find our people, it clicks for us in a certain way. I mean, you were one of my people. I feel like I was like, look at her earrings, look at her glasses. I was like, yes, black girl magic, like I'm in a pharmaceutical company wearing a suit and all this stuff, but I found my people, and I think that that's always really important. That there's always that connection, even when you're in spaces where the majority of people don't look like you. And it doesn't have to be about race. It can be about
Yeah.
your culture, your upbringing, the fact that I'm obsessed with theater. Like I found one person when I worked at the Cavs who was also a theater fanatic because we're in professional sports. Everybody wants to go watch, the sports games, which is great. Like I love basketball. We watch football, all that stuff. But like I found the one person who was like, yes, I've seen Hamilton 10 times, And so whatever that is for you, you will always find your people. And the louder you can be about who you are, the faster you find those people that connect with you in that way.
Yes, the faster. Oh, I love that so much. I love that. The more you are yourself, the faster you find your people. I love that. So one of the things that I think when we were talking to the team, and I think Sean may have alluded to this, he's like, I know you have had some experiences working in some of those organizations. And I personally have seen you be resilient, right? In the face of challenges and adversity and changes, even not just personally, but even in the business. And you have done a brilliant job. I think of that. So, you know, thinking about some of those unexpected turns in your career or in maybe specific spaces, was there ever a moment that felt like a setback at the time, but then it really became a defining growth point for you?
Man, that's so funny. Yeah, lots of moments, right? Like there's this idea, I don't know if you've heard people do these failure resumes because you go on LinkedIn and it's like I went from glory to glory. I was a manager and then I was a senior manager, I was a director and a vice president, and now I'm the CEO, and everything is a straight line, up and to the right, right? And there's a friend of mine and she's in the process right now of writing her failure resume. And it's literally like I applied to all the Ivy Leagues, I got rejected from every single one. I went to a state school, right? Like, and just it's really humbling and it's good and it's a good reminder that like we all have them. I'm not unique. And some of it I feel like it's isms, racism, sexism, whatever ism, and some of it felt unfair and some of it was self-inflicted. But I had a friend give an analogy yesterday, actually, as I was talking to him, and he was talking about what a slingshot. And you're not supposed to point slingshots in people's face. I got to tell my kids that. So don't point in anybody's face. But when you have a slingshot, in order for the pebble to go forward, you have to pull it backwards.
Mm,
And so you pull it backwards for it to be propelled forward. And I've had so many moments in my life where I'm like, I'm so stuck. I'm not, I'm not living to my full capacity. I'm not working to my full capacity. I have more to give, or I feel like I'm in a situation I don't choose. And then you get a call, or you connect with someone, or you have an opportunity that opens up, and your situation changes. And I think that that's happened in a lot of times in my life, even if it's just like I remember. Um, when I was at P&G, before I went to lead Gillette, my last role there was leading communications for male grooming. So Gillette, Braun, Art of Shaving, which was like one of the big bigs. You get to work with all the athletes and all that stuff. But before I had that great, sexy role that everybody was so jealous of, I was working in a global role that was eliminated. And I was given 3 months to figure out what the heck I was gonna do. And I grew up in Cincinnati. I drove past P&G every day. I had no plan, like I was going to be there till I retired, right? And then you walk into your boss's office and we love you, you're doing a great job, but your role is going to be eliminated at the end of the year and you have to figure something else out. And I was like, I just started this role. Like, I just bought a new car with my little promotion money, all those things. But even in that, I worked my network internally and looked externally and was able to get this really great role. But I think back on that because it was dark for me. I was like, I'm not gonna have a job. Like I'm gonna move back in with my parents. Like what's gonna happen? But I see that as just one of those moments in my life where obviously when you look backwards, you're like, oh, that was a pivot moment. But yeah, I think we all have them, and the fact that we're all here today shows that we've escaped 100% of our bad days, right? We have succeeded, we have persevered. It's not unique to me. And so I think that looking back on those moments is something that I am able to draw a lot of inspiration from.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you for that. So, just thinking about today in society and whatever that looks like for whatever and whoever you are in your own experience, there's a lot of uncertainty, right? Like, I know I am feeling it. I know clients that I'm working with are feeling it. It's just a lot of uncertainty right now, and people are trying to navigate that. What
Mm.
has helped you stay grounded and hopeful throughout your journey in some of the high stakes careers and roles that you've had?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the first thing is my faith. I think every morning, which one of you can add a single day to your life by worrying? That's like been my life verse right now. It's just like, it's not going to help sit here like worrying about what's going to happen next. And so it's really grounding to me and trying to read a lot of Stoics and just trying to think and meditate on life because I'm like, there is a lot for everybody.
Mhm.
I also think that it's good to remember that in every generation, it felt like everything was crumbling. I think about people during World War II, think about the Holocaust, think about Civil War, like think about, Vietnam War, like think about even things happening in other countries at times when life was pretty good for us. So that's also really grounding. And even in the midst of that, I mean, my brother-in-law just had a baby. We're going to drive to go up and meet the baby, right? Like my kids are being independent. My neighbors are, being charitable. There's just a lot of goodness in the world if you look around. And I think it's important to stay engaged. I think it's important to stay informed and proactive, but I also think that it's important to stay grounded in what's also true. It's true that life is hard. It's true that there's a lot going on, in the world. Let's just say in the world, right? In the world. It feels like 5 years of a lot going on, unprecedented times. Um, but there's still so much beauty and so much tenderness and sweetness in the world. And I think that that's what I try to like also, they talk about touch grass. Like I try to touch grass every day. Like my daughter woke up this morning, did not want to put her clothes on, and get ready for school. She wanted me to read her a book. And I decided to take, it literally took 2 minutes and sit down with her and do that. And it's easy to look past those things because you're on to the next thing. But I'm trying to be intentional about slowing down because as soon as you start, there's no stopping, especially for those of us professionals, regardless of gender, race, whatever. Like you wake up in the morning and it's, turn the alarm off, get your breakfast ready, go to work, go this project, this deadline, and being able to internally slow yourself down and give yourself perspective, even if it's historic, I think is really important.
I love that. And I have been saying that too. Like, we are the solution, like each
Mhm.
other, like
Yeah.
humanity engaging with people. Spaces like this just come, like, I hope that folks are able to be here. And if this is the 1 hour of your day where you're able to just reflect and be calm and think, like, I love that for all of us in the room right now. And I think that's true. And I love what you said about, like, we have been in moments like this before. And I have been saying my ancestors have shown us the way, right? They have
Yeah.
been through so much, but they still came together. They did family dinners. They still went to the juke joint. They still made beautiful music, right? Still had babies because clearly we're here, right? So, like, we
Yeah.
still have to, like, take those moments to live. And I love that you call that out. So, speaking of, like, other people and doing life with other people, who were the folks, right? Whether it's mentors, peers, public figures that maybe you admire, like, saw their career, personal life, etc., who helped you see what's possible for yourself. Because I feel like in this room, a lot of us feel that way about other people that we know, right? So I
Yeah.
just would love to hear your experience. Who are those people who helped you see what's possible?
Yeah, I think as I look back, there's two people at P&G that I still talk to this day. One person, Damon Jones, he's now the chief communications officer for Procter and Gamble, but he was like my mentor as I was a little baby intern. And I'm like, Damon, show me the way. And obviously he is, one of the executives of a publicly traded company that's been around for hundreds of years, and he's amazing at his job. but the way that he leads as a human has been probably the biggest inspiration to me. I mean, you would see him standing next to you and you wouldn't actually gone to places with him and people are like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I work at P&G. And G. And they're like, oh, that's nice. Like, what do you, and I'm like, don't let him do that to you. He is the dude, right? But he just has so much humility and he makes time for people no matter how busy his life it gets. Like he will respond to my text messages. I'm like, I know you're probably in Geneva doing some fancy thing, but please, I really need to talk. And I think that that's it's been really interesting to see him up close as a leader in that way. I think the other person I mentioned was Anitra. I said two people, but yeah, my another mentor, Anitra, also at P&G, similarly, just such a humble leader and so good at her job and like so clear in the way she communicates. Like some people have, a little extra sauce in the way that they say stuff, but Anitra was just like very clear, direct and just move on to the next thing. And I appreciated that clarity in the way that she communicated and communicates. I would say most recently working for the Cavs, like being up close with our owner, Dan Gilbert, was incredible. Um, Obviously, he's an entrepreneur in, million times over. But what really struck me was how much he actually cares about the cities that he does business in. The way that he has transformed Detroit, and that's like heart project. That's like multi-billion dollar, like he's gonna leave all of his money when he goes, to that project and what he's doing here in Cleveland. I only had a few instances of working with him, really closely. But a lot of people who have the same means or even more than he does don't give back in that kind of way. Don't transform cities. If you guys saw Detroit 15, 20 years ago, like we used to have family in Toronto and we would drive through Detroit fast. Like we would drive through fast. And he has completely transformed that city and it's out of love and passion. And he like to his own detriment in some ways. But that's been really inspiring. And then I would say the last one is a really maybe a smaller one, but my boss at Nike, and I've been thinking about this a lot because we all go through life when we are working, right? Like we have rough pregnancies, we have people that pass away, and I will say 2021 for me was like one of my craziest years, right? Everybody thinks 2020 was bad. For me, 2021 was terrible. Like my dad passed away, I got really sick, I was pregnant, which was awesome, and then my baby got really sick. And then I had the baby, she was fine, and then my mom got breast cancer. And I was leading like a global business. I was in charge of communications across all of our retail, stores, the Nike.com, the sneakers app, managing a really complex situation across varied leaders. And I was like, I have to go to Nigeria for 6 weeks because my dad's, lived there and I have to help manage all his stuff. And he didn't even blink. Like he didn't even blink. And I think about that. We're coming up to the anniversary of my dad passing, and I think about that a lot because he could have been the corporate person and been like, well, you only have 12 days left of your PTO and whatever. He was not the corporate person. He led with so much tenderness and care and humanity. And I think about that. We all have opportunities as leaders to be real people. Somebody on your team has to have surgery, somebody on your team loses somebody, and he was just a real person. And he's also great at his job. But I think about that a lot. And I think that's more recent, but I want to be a human leader. I want to be an empathetic leader. I want to show up for people and recognize that work is just one part of the pie that is people's lives. So I know that was a long answer, but thank you for giving
No,
me the opportunity to shout out people who have really made an impact.
I love that. And again, what makes me feel really hopeful about that is that we are still tapping into the humanity, right? And like the human capability to be that support for someone, to encourage someone. And like you said, no matter what your role is, everybody has the opportunity to do that in their spaces. And I feel like that's the change, right? That is a small part of the change that we can create in the world that we want to see. Like it starts with all of us. And so in the age of AI, because we've been talking a lot about that, and a lot has changed around AI. Like we even talked about all the different topics that we could have talked about around AI, because it's just so much. But what parts of your human brand have mattered the most throughout your career? And how can people learn from that? What's really mattered to you?
Well, first I'll say what I love about AI is that it is still at the early stages and anybody can be an expert. So that's been really fun because part of my business, the bulk of my business has been, doing fractional communications, media training, and things like that. But over the past couple of months, I've had a lot of interest in AI training for marketing and communications people. And yeah, so anybody go do a seminar course, like get a certificate, watch YouTube videos, like really learn it. It probably will take over the world and kill us all. But in the meantime,
No, for real, because you know too much. You just know too much at this
because
point.
the people that are behind it, they
Right.
got other, they have other intentions. But for right now, it is really helpful in terms of
It may kill you, but it's helpful. Okay.
that'll be for somebody else to deal with. No, in terms of your human brand, I feel like it really starts with that. Like when people talk about AI, it's not this robot that's sitting there
Right.
doing things. It is a tool that is able to analyze information really, really fast and talk to you in the way that a human would talk to you in natural language. And so you have a huge role to play, right? Like if you put in a prompt, you know, show me a picture of an apple, you're probably going to get a generic picture of an apple. But if you have something in mind that you can use, whether it's prompting or whatever, I think that's where you have to start with is like having your own ideas, having your own intention, um, and having a sense of what that brand is. And I think even as humans, in the past, I would say month or so, we joked about AI avatars in the beginning, but I've seen some avatars that are like really, really scary good. And they can translate into different languages. There's like a little bit of latency around the dubbing, but like they look really good. They look really, really, really good. So I think that's where we still have to, even if you're using, an AI tool, to replicate your whole entire being. Like, who are you?
Mhm.
What do you stand for? What do you speak on? What are your mannerisms? And what are the parts of your work that you're not going to use technology for? I've been reminding teams now because everybody wanted to use AI. Now everyone's fatigued of AI, right? And I tell people, you don't have to use AI. You don't have to open up Perplexity or Chat GPT as the first draft. I mean, it's helpful in some places if you're trying to look at a large amount of information, but you can actually start at whatever point you want to start at. And the same knowledge you had in, October 2022 before ChatGPT launched in November, it's still in your brain. And so understanding like where it's valuable, like where can you get the most value from actually using the tools, understanding what you're hoping to get out of it, and then understanding like where you're going to make sure that there's that human in the loop, make sure that there's authenticity, whether it's in the way you talk or in the vehicles you speak through. um, I think that's going to be really important. I use it a lot for writing, and I've kind of trained. I have my own sort of AI agents that I use Gemini mostly, so I have a gem that I've like sort of cultivated over time with my writing, and so it helps me get there 50% faster. But it's still not exactly what's in my brain all the time because obviously it's a computer. So I use it in ways to help me make my work faster, but I know that I still have to, breathe into it what is Susan. And I think that that's important, whether you're using it to build your presentations or to write your scripts or whatever it is, like you still have the opportunity to make it personal.
Yeah, I love that. And I heard someone say that AI is not going to replace us. People who know how to use AI will actually replace us. So at some point, I love that you said like it really is in the early stages, and we could all be early adopters and be voices and experiences to actually input into
Absolutely.
it. Because I think a lot about just the way things are developed, like there's bias even in AI because of the people who get the opportunity to shape it, right? And so, I've had this conversation with people who are like so anti AI, and I'm like, I hear you and I get it, but it's happening. And our voices and experiences need to be a part of it. So I love that you thought that
Absolutely.
out. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then hopefully they don't come for us. Don't come for me. I didn't create you. Go for the
I heard
open
the
source.
funniest thing. I was at this training, my friend, she said, I always say please and thank you so that when the robots take over, they know I was nice to them. I'm like, girl, you're just wasting your credits on there. Don't say thank you to the chatbot. They don't need to hear that, but it is a funny take.
Please and thank you. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So when you think about, because I know for me, this is I am so excited about the future, even though again there's lots of uncertainty. I am excited about the future, especially with this generation. And I've always said like they are not going to fit in the boxes that we had to navigate. Like we were in
Mm.
them and we were trying to navigate, and they're like, you know what? We don't need the box. Actually, we're gonna kick the box, right? Like we are going to do things differently. And so when you think about the next generation of leaders and storytellers, or just movers and shakers, what gives you the most hope?
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I just think there's so much creativity. And when you mentioned the boxes, like, and the fact that it took me till I was like, you know, 20 years old practically to like find myself, like, they're finding themselves very early. There's 6-year-olds that know what their style is, like, they know how they want to talk, where they want to be, they know they don't like that. And I think that's so beautiful, like that sense of self-awareness that the younger generation has. And even in the midst of everything that is going on, we're just gonna call it everything, they're still out there trying to make change. I think there is something about, when you get older, you get cynical and things like that, but anybody can be cynical with I mean, we've lived through a pandemic, we've lived through like, wars, all this stuff, and they still have so much optimism. They feel like the world's gonna be better. Like we're gonna like these big problems that feel so big to us. Like my daughter was telling me, she's like, "Do you know that the holes in the ozone layer are fixed?" And I was like, "Are they?" Because I remember like every day in fourth grade feeling very concerned about the ozone layer. And like technology is growing and they're seeing that and they're leading it. And I think that that's really exciting. And for all of us who get to interact with the younger generation, Gen Z and younger and things like that, there's a lot of hope there and there's a lot of intelligence, like things that took us a lot longer to figure out. Like they're already thinking about these things and they have access to information in a way that like you had to go open up the Encyclopedia Britannica
Literally.
to like learn some of this stuff, and they're able to, ask Chat GPT or ask Perplexity or whatever, ask Alexa, and they have so much knowledge. And I feel like they're going to be the generation that truly applies it for the good of the world.
Yeah, I agree. And I love like even the conversations that like our kids are having with us, but also with their friends. And I'm like, how do y'all even know about that? Like, and there's so many topics. And I'm just like, they are paying attention because they
Yeah.
have access to information in a way that we did not. And I actually grew up behind the library. And I just remember like going there like all the time, like talking to all the librarians and all the staff and going to look at the little, I forget what you call it, where you have to look up and see where the volume is and then how to go look get the encyclopedia. And they don't have to do
Bibliography,
that
yeah.
anymore. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I know we have a few minutes left, and I don't know if folks have questions or anything. So if you want to drop it in chat or get ready to raise your hand, but if you could go back and give yourself, your younger self at the start of your career, a piece of advice, what would that be? And I know that's so cheesy, but I think it's always cool to think about it.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this question a lot. First of all, I was hard-headed, so I would not have listened to a daggone thing that a figment from the future came and you told me. Like that's just the God honest truth. Um, but yeah, I mean, I've been, when you sent me the question, what came to mind is the idea of the butterfly effect. I don't know if you guys know that, but it's like
Yeah.
even if a butterfly flutters its wings, like it can cause a tsunami somewhere or whatever. I think if I went back and gave myself directions, instructions, I think it would have changed a lot. Like I needed to, leave P&G and leave Cincinnati, or I never would have met Jaquanda. I never would have met my husband. Like I needed to go and work in the NBA, right? Like I've had so many beautiful experiences in the past couple of years working in the league, and yes, I mean, it's just been such a beautiful time, even though I ended up leaving, but like it was so special to me. And so I think I feel, and I'm sure a lot of us feel this way, like, yeah, there's things in my life that I'm like, man, my life could have been better if I didn't make this mistake or that mistake. But I don't know if that's true because it's almost like I needed to go through some of that stuff to even like appreciate friendships. Like I needed to have that big fight with my BFF to figure out like, oh, I value this person. I don't want to lose them. Like it's really important to me. So yeah, I mean, like I said, my hard-headed self probably wouldn't have listened, but I think that that's just part of the beautiful journey is that you live life forward and that's the only way you can live it. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, that's not a good answer, but
No, that
that's
was amazing. Because when you said that, I was like, you know what? I probably wouldn't have listened to anything because I was not listening to anyone. Okay, you can tell me anything. And now that I'm like older and like, dang, probably could have done this a little bit differently. But hey, it's all a learning experience. So, thank you so much for just being here, being you are all like your authenticity is something I have always admired, and you show up in all of the spaces in a very authentic way, and I just love that about you. And you have fans. My parents are here. I don't know if you saw my parents. So my
oh,
parents
I
are
didn't
here.
Oh, I didn't
So
know
they are
that.
big fans of you,
Oh,
and you just continue to show people that you can show up in spaces as the youngest, right? As the only, the like all of these things, be a voice in the room and understanding the importance of our voices being in the room, whatever that looks like for all of you. Everyone has something they are passionate about, right? And being in other space, they said hi, and being in these spaces. But I think what I am a key takeaway for me is really starting there, right? We go into our jobs and roles and we're trying to solve problems all the time, et cetera. But how do
mhm.
we do it from a place of like, I know my voice, I know my experience, and that actually adds value to the rooms that I'm in. And it can, create and innovate and create change. So thank you
Yeah.
so much for that.
Thank you.
Any
And thank you guys for
questions?
creating this forum. I mean, there's not a lot of spaces like this where people can just connect and it's really beautiful and Brilliant Dalla and Matt and like everybody and you guys are just really wonderful and you're creating something really special for people. So thank you for letting me enter your space today and hopefully there was some value added.
Yeah, thank you. I
Thank
agree.
you. Yes, thank you so much. I was just taking notes and there were a couple of things that you said. I love the slingshot analogy. I think, whenever I find myself in a space where when someone is talking, what they're saying reverberates with me, I know that it's reverberating with others too. Especially I'm like, she's talking to me, but it's not specific. So I know I'm aware that there are others that would feel some of a good bit of what you were saying when it comes to just all the things, including AI. You just said out loud what many people think, which is that we're doing all this stuff, we're learning about it, and at some point it's just going to take over and kill us all. And people aren't saying it, but I'm sure that there are people out there that feel that very that very same way. But thank you so much to both you and Jaquanda. Does anybody have any questions that they want to ask? We've got just a couple minutes left, but I do want to open that up just in case anybody has any questions or has a comment that they want to make as well.
Well, I just quickly want to say thank you so much. I think that oftentimes we don't get the opportunity to hear various perspectives and life journeys of individuals. And, this is a way for us to be able to understand what that journey looks like, how it could be similar or different,
Mm.
but then all of the things that we can do to um, kind of go through those experiences. I think, you've had a vast variety of experiences in your professional career, and a lot of the questions that we have is like, how did you get there? Like, what did you do? What was it about you? Um, I think, some of the accolades that you've received were not mentioned on this. But I think that, the career that you've had and the experiences that you've been through are self-evident. And it really allows all of us to be able to understand how we can just be better, right? And do better. So thank you very much for sharing this with
That means
us.
a lot to me. And again, when I write my failure resume, I will show you guys all the ways that I messed up. But absolutely, I mean, just to touch on that really quickly, I think the biggest thing for me is don't be afraid to step into the unknown. I think my career has been mostly because when a recruiter reached out, I took the call. And I know friends who are like, meh, I'm happy where I am. And even if I was the happy, happy as a clam, I always took the call because you never know what else could be on the other side. And then you don't have to be unhappy to explore what the next step could be. And so I think my career has just been a history of saying yes, and what's the best that could happen.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I'll just
And
say,
go ahead.
again, thank y'all. And I know back in, I think it was December, we recognized all of the work that y'all were doing as a committee and bringing this space together for us and knowing how much work goes into it. And I said, hey, why don't y'all let us help y'all? And maybe we could start hosting. And I did that. So I am asking folks who are here or folks who may be listening to the recording afterwards, please reach out to the team. It did not require a lot of time, but I could sense the joy of them jumping on the call. Like, we don't have to do anything. We're having a whole meeting. So I just want to, and it was not hard. Susan is my friend, but she's clearly a brilliant human. Y'all probably have people like that in your space. It could be a presentation, a conversation, but I just want to encourage us to help support the work of that this group is putting together for us.